it's me, Jay, your GM. I use he, him, and they, them.
Hello, it is me, your heir. And this is Jay on Air. Colon space, we don't have a name for it. Colon space, Matt Koval's favorite YouTube channel.
Shut
Apparently.
up. We're going to be talking about our favorite rules. We're going to be going over some rules we like from games.
Well, I think they are evocative of both of our kind of, what we like in our tabletop role playing games. And some of them I think are examples of things we've talked about in previous episodes. So it's good to actually bring the concrete example forward and be like, hey, here's what we were talking about, and let's spell out why we think it's cool.
I
Oh
like
yeah.
really elegantly designed rules that are like really masterful in how they simplify a complex idea into simple things, and you like the other stuff.
Whatever justifies letting me do whatever bullshit I want at the table. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. My first rule is the usage die from the Black Hack. Any item listed in the equipment section that has a usage die is considered a consumable limited item. When that item is used the next minute turn, its usage die is rolled. If the roll is 1 to 2, then the usage die is downgraded, and the next lower die in the following chain is used from then on. Whenever you roll a 1 to 2 on a d4, the item is expended, and then the character has no more of it left. So, this is a way to abstract tracking things like ammunition, rations, all sorts of like consumable supplies. And it not only abstracts it, it adds tension and excitement to using mundane things. So you have a D6 torch. You are in a dark crypt, you light your torch and it starts to burn. Roll your usage die to see if you have any torches left. Now, whether or not you have torches left is not something you have to track individually in your bag, but it is an exciting, intense die roll. Oh no, this was the last of my torches. Now I'm not going to have any more. We're going to have to be traveling in the dark from now on. We're going to have to really make the most of this last one. And it just adds a little tension, a little excitement. It takes away some of the bookkeeping, but it makes the bookkeeping more interesting. So it actually incentivizes you to do the bookkeeping. It's the best of all possible worlds. It's just a great way to track inventory.
It's because you're applying it to consumables, but I could even see it being a nice system for like durability, like not just what projectiles, what ammunition I have, but how dinged up is my sword or my shield. Could it be the chance that my shield is at a D4 usage die and maybe one more good hit and it is expended, and now I have a lower AC or whatever the system you're using does and how it models armor. But yeah, no, I think that is very elegant and a lot better than being like, okay, I now have 39 arrows, I now have 38 rations or whatever. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fun.
it's really. I think it's just a clever, simple, but extremely well executed rule that is just plain good. What
I
is
like it.
your first rule?
Well, my first rule, because I'm greedy, is actually two rules.
Of course.
But of course, but I think they are kind of definitional of my favorite rolling system, which is definitely not Jay's favorite, which is I'm a big Powered by the Apocalypse fan. I remember the first time I saw systems using it, and I was like, great, it codifies tiers of success, keeps it easy, it uses D6s, which everyone has. Uh, and the difficulties are always set. It's a nice simple curve because it's 2d6. It gives you that nice shapely bell curve. But the first one I wanted to bring up was from Dungeon World, which was my first brush with Powered by the Apocalypse hacks, and it's the last breath advanced move. Now it's a general move that everyone gets, and it's basically their dying rules. When you're dying, you catch a glimpse of what lies beyond the black gates of Death's kingdom. The GM will describe it, so the GM gets a chance to kind of give whatever description of their underworld, afterlife, what have you, to the players. Then you roll plus nothing because the it is classic for your death saves and whatnot to not necessarily have a modifier. In fact, the flavor text is here. Yeah, plus nothing. Death doesn't care how tough or cool you are. On a 10 plus, you've cheated death. You're in a bad spot, but you're still alive. On a 7 to 9, death will offer you a bargain. Take it and stabilize, or refuse and pass beyond the black gates into whatever fates awaits you. On a miss, your fate is sealed. You're marked as death's own, and you'll cross the threshold soon. The GM will tell you when. And the reason I like this is I remember seeing it and being like, that's so much more exciting than just a series of death saves and you're dead. Like getting a chance to bargain with death makes every time you get to use the last breath move a lot more fun, and it has that breakdown of narrative control from narrative games that I like. If you fail the roll, it's in the DM's hands as to how you're dying. If you succeed on the roll, you're stabilizing, you're living, and you're moving on in the adventure. But on that mixed success, on that 7 to 9, you're sharing narrative control. The game master is still the one giving you the options, offering you this bargain, saying what it will take for you to survive, or what sort of options you have, and it's up to the player to choose if they want to take that deal or not. So there's a bit of shared narrative control on that mixed success. The only thing I don't really like about this is the least interesting option is succeeding. Oh yeah, you're in a bad spot, but you're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like that doesn't really give the player a lot of narrative agency. There's not that, chance to come back big, have that last heroic hurrah or anything like that. I really like it when the 10 plus roll gives a lot of narrative control to the player. So the other option I have is Jinx, which is one I've mentioned somewhat recently in our episodes. It's one of the moves for the spooky in Monster of the Week, where you can jinx a target, you roll plus weird, which is one of the stats in Monster of the Week. And if you roll really well, you get to pick from two options. Now, there's some really simple ones, like you can give disadvantage, you can give -1, which is like disadvantage in the system. You can give a +1, and you describe, how you're helping or hindering the target. You can inflict 1 harm. And the last two options, which are really my favorite, is the target finds something you left for them, or the target loses something that you will soon find. And I really love these open ended options that give the player the option to really do whatever they want within the context of the scene where they're rolling this move.
I think I much prefer Jinx over Last Breath. I think Last Breath is, personally, I find Last Breath to be a little bit, not too compelling, personally. I think if every time a player goes down, Death starts bargaining with them, it implies a certain amount of, like, really active intervention of Death into the world, which is very strange that, like, Death is constantly bargaining with this party and off making deals and offering them things. And also, for your information, 2d6 systems, 3 tiers of success, I use them a lot. I put them in my own games. I don't know why you are assuming I hate everything in narrative games, man.
I just don't think Powered by the Apocalypse is your
I
particular
think
brand.
Powered by the Apocalypse is a fine game. I just, I personally wouldn't play too much of it myself, but I don't think it's, like, bad. I also think, like, 2d6 and 3 tiers of success is just, like, a good, solid dice system.
For sure, yeah, it gives you a nice breadth. In fact, in my Powered by the Apocalypse hack, like, I just do it with advantage, no modifiers, and the numbers break out.
Draw Steel uses
evenly,
a derivative of the system, 2d10.
Yeah, it does,
3 tiers
actually,
of
yeah.
system. So, yeah, I like that dice system, yeah.
I should mention that despite being based on, like, OSR style Dungeons and Dragons, it's actually very hard to kill a Dungeon World character. They actually have a surprising amount.
Well, yeah, that's because Dungeon World is a bad game.
Wow. But yeah, you aren't dealing with death all that often because you are actually pretty hardy as a character in that game. But yeah, if you don't like the notion of, like, your characters being special in such a way that death has a vested interest in them, then yeah, I could see it not being your cup of tea.
My second rule is the traveling rules from Ryutama. I basically use a
Oh yeah.
derivative of these rules in every game I run now. Whenever I have to do a traveling segment, I basically always break down the day in this manner because I think it's a really nice formula that creates the feeling of an adventure, the feeling of like a travel montage, the feeling of a Lord of the Rings style panorama. And at the same time, it taxes their resources and it gives them opportunities to use their various abilities. And I think it like ports really well to other games. So the travel rules, which are on screen, have a series of 4 steps. So the first thing is to do a condition check. This is basically in Ryutama a check to determine how much of your resources you actually have access to for that adventuring day. In Ryutama, condition is a basically like a status that is constantly in flux. And different things can help you to have good or bad conditions. A lot of time I'll replace condition check with something like a morale check. Because I specifically limit long rests in my campaign to a full day of rest, I will use the result of this check as an opportunity to give back a limited amount of resources instead of giving back all their resources. Second step is to do a travel check. Of course, in D&D, this could be something as simple as a survival check. But you're going to figure out which way you're traveling. And if you fail the check, there's the potential that you have a calamity happen. Some sort of bad thing occurs. In Ryutama, your condition can go down. In other games, I can, maybe you break your leg. Maybe you step on a bear trap. Maybe you accidentally alert people who are chasing you and they manage to gain ground on you. All sorts of things can happen here. It's great and flexible for being a GM and interpreting the results. Then, are you able to find your way without getting lost? So that is in Ryutama, a direction check. In D&D, you could imagine that being perception, or again, it could be a nature check or survival check, whatever you want.
Tool, proficiency, yeah.
Absolutely. So actually, I might reverse these two and say on the travel check, I would probably do perception or investigation. And then on the second check, the direction check, I would do survival. So that would be your survival check to check your heading and your direction. And then finally, are you able to spend the night safely and without incident? Camping check. Yeah, this could be all sorts of things, but generally speaking, when I do this, I will give the players an opportunity to do something to basically help them have an advantage if they get ambushed in the night, or to help them increase their morale check in the morning, give them all sorts of opportunities to just like create a nice little bonding moment. A lot of times for camping check, what I will actually do is to basically have the players entertain themselves. Like, how do you spend the evening together? And then that can boost morale, and then morale can further boost your ability to regain assets and abilities through the day. So I just think it's a nice, clean little system, and it's very adaptable to other systems. I think that it's easy to use, and it gives you a strong, simple formula for running travel in an interesting way. And yeah, I just really like it. I use these traveling rules all the time in D&D, and I'll continue to use them all the time in Draw Steel. It's just a nice little checklist to see, okay, what ways can we make travel a place where players can actually apply their various skills, abilities, features, etc., and keep it engaging, but also keep it quick and breezy, so we're not getting bogged down in each day's events too much.
When we played Ryutama, and I mean, this is kind of par for the course because it's really a game about travel. It's a game about journeying. But this was the best part of it. Like the traveling
Yep.
rules and all the systems that feed into it were, I think, the most fun part. Like, I think we both said we did a combat in the game we played, and it was serviceable, I would say, is a
Yeah.
charitable definition. But it was a little bit more than like a theater of the mind narrative type thing, but it definitely wasn't a rich tactical experience.
No.
So it felt a little bit bolted on. It was really the pastoral journey over this magical land that was the best part about Ryutama. So I could see why you'd want to kind of take this and apply it to whatever game you're running, because it's a good model for that. Well, my second rule that I was going to look at today, which is really one of the core mechanics of all of the Fantasy Flight Star Wars role playing games. I experienced it when our friend Maz was running us through a campaign of Edge of the Empire. But the Destiny point system I really love, and I really wish a lot of other games would look at this for their inspiration around like GM and player mechanics, because it's so elegant and it's absolutely perfect here. So the way it works is you have a mix of light side and dark side points that allow you to juice rolls in various ways. We don't need to get into the details, but at the start of every session, everybody rolls to figure out what the distribution of light and dark side points is, and they are meant to kind of map to the push and pull of the light and dark side of the force in the narrative. So if you want to juice a roll as a player, you can cash in a light side point, and it allows you to add stuff to your dice pool and increase your chances of success. But that light side point now becomes a dark side point for the game master to use. And so rather than having we've seen a lot of examples now of these two tracks of resources, one for players and one for the game master, like Hope and Fear and Daggerheart, like Heroic Resource and Malice and Draw Steel, it, where it's this war of attrition kind of between both sides. Daggerheart is a bit of this push and pull, but it is very much spelt out in these Fantasy Flight Star Wars games, where you can use the light side of the force. You can use it to juice your roll and try to force destiny to do what you want, but it is only gonna power up the GM to do the same thing for the baddies, and give in to the dark side. And it's so thematic of that game and that universe. It invokes it so strongly, and it's just this great push and pull mechanic that's so very simple. I am a big fan.
I don't necessarily think that this is something that should be in every game, but I think that this is a super good addition to a Star Wars universe game. Like, it is just such a perfect mechanic to express the idea that the light and dark side are always in balance, flowing back and forth, shifting and changing, but always equalizing. And that is, a core tenet of that mythos, and it's expertly expressed in this rule. So I think it's an excellent example of a really good rule.
Yeah, it's a favorite of mine for sure. What do we think, Jay? Did we do good? Did we do good, YouTube?
I think we talked about some really cool rules. I have no idea if this is the kind of content people crave, but I hope it is, because I could talk about this sort of stuff for a million episodes. There's all sorts of games out there that have really interesting, fun, unique, clever expressions of different ideas. If you have a game that you think is really interesting, go ahead and drop that below, because I'd love to hear more. I mean, I genuinely love learning about other games and how they use rules to express concepts, and especially when it's like a really simple and elegant system. As you may have noticed through the two I brought up, these are not just rules that I like, but these are rules that I often steal and put in other games, because I think that they're really elegant expressions of a specific kind of thing that is commonly coming up. And those are the sorts of rules I love the most, because I can just yoink them into whatever I'm doing next. Yeah, so please get at us. And otherwise, thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Goodbye.